My name is Achraf. I'm an educator. I'm in research on education and leadership. I teach leadership, entrepreneurship, and I'm president of an NGO. It's called Jazz 3/4. We empower youth through jazz music, entrepreneurship, and visual arts. And today I'm going to give you 3 of my rebellions against education that I did. Well, I did a lot of rebellions, but 3, of my favorites. So it all begun 20 years ago. When I entered this classroom, they were beautiful students, beautiful minds. They were smart. They were answering all the questions. But only one question they couldn't answer. What do you think? Silence. It's not because they are lazy, Kusela, or they don't do the job, but they were not taught how to answer this question. We were not taught it because I have did the system. I studied in the system, and whenever the teacher asks us, did you understand? Everyone says, yes. Couldn't dare, no, sir, I don't understand. But the thing, it's not their fault. They could do everything. They could memorize. We could memorize. We could pass the exams. We could repeat. But can we create? Can they create? Can they create something out of nothing? Can they navigate uncertainties? Well, the obvious answer is no. They can't. It's because of the system itself. I'm afraid to say that the system is breeding slaves, but let's stick to that. It was designed for another century, not ours. Because education is supposed to prepare you for the present. I'm not talking about the future. The future is not here yet because we don't know what the future is holding. All we know is that the present. And the present is happening so fast, but education stayed behind. So, my first rebellion. You remember when I say I'm president of an NGO called Jazz 3/4, and we empower you through jazz music. I had this crazy idea of introducing jazz music to schools. That was it. I had to convince so many schools. Some of them accepted. So I don't know if anybody here is doing music. Who's doing music here? Nobody? Oh, you're doing music. Are you doing music? So, okay, great. So we have some musicians right here. So I don't know if you know it, but jazz is the greatest leadership classroom ever invented. Why is that? Because musicians listen to each other. The rule is if you don't hear your friend, you're too loud. So you have to listen, you have to work together. They learn from their mistakes. They improvise. Oh, improvisation. Improvisation is something so cool because they can tell you, hey, this is me. Improvisation is not something written. Improvisation is the musician connecting the unconnectable, is taking notes, out of nowhere, gathering them, and coming up with something extraordinary. That's breaking the rules. So they take risks, and they work together. Instead of competition, there is what? Collaboration. So all the ingredients, to breed leaders, and of course having good grades, for parents to say. 3 schools actually followed us at first, and then 3 others followed. Oh, my second rebellion. My second rebellion, I wanted to teach entrepreneurship and art therapy to children. It was in 2005. The idea was just insane, crazy. How do you teach entrepreneurship to children. I had no idea at that time, but I wanted to do it. So I did, including art therapy. Because art therapy, I don't know if you know this word, art therapy is a therapy through arts. It could be music, it could be dancing, it could be theater, but in a therapeutic manner. If you have problems inside, through that art, you would feel good. Some people feel good when they paint. Some people feel good when they write, or write in poetry. And that's what we did in art therapy. So, 13 schools followed us for 12 beautiful years. When I say school, like public school, most of them were public schools. Most of them were based between Rabat, Casablanca, and Marrakesh. I wanted, to gather more, but hey, the system wouldn't break. You know what makes me happy is when I meet somebody 20 years later and telling me, I don't recognize him, but he does. And when they say that the camp or the classes helped him a lot. That's what I know, that I'm not, doing bad things. So then I committed another educational crime. But this time it was very daring. Because I always believed if you want to study something, you have to go for it. So what I did, I took the kids outside the classroom. Oh yeah. You can't imagine the difficulty to convince a regular school taking their kids outside the classroom to study geography. That's all the way it should be done. Why in the classroom or textbook? No. So we traveled. I wanted to take them outside, but hey, just around Morocco, we met people, we discovered cuisine, they discovered their country, and they had fun. Do you guys have fun while studying? So, because I believe that, the real education is happening outside, not in the classroom. Except if it's this classroom, because I love it. So, first, 7 schools followed, and then 2 others followed when they saw the outcome of these students becoming more intelligent. So what's next? I hope you're going to love what's next. No more exams. No more memorization. No more information. No more stress. No more grades. You know what I do when I enter my classroom? When I first see my students, I tell them, I don't know you. I don't know if you are Kusela, if you are going to give me, your examination, if you are going to be absent, but you all have 20s. It's in your pocket. You all have 20s and you have to keep it. Of course, it's very difficult for them to keep it. But it works because I want them to concentrate on searching knowledge, not searching grades. This is nonsense when I hear a student telling me, I want to have 20, I want to have 18, I want to have 19. Is that all your life revolving around that? No, knowledge. Because if it revolves around grades, once you finish, you will have forgotten everything. Everything. Who remembers the first geography lesson, like 20 years ago? Nobody. Like 2 days ago? Nobody. I understand that you have examination right now. Of course you will have forgotten everything once you get out. It's too bad. At least that's what I do in my classroom. That's how I test. That's how I know that the outcome. That's why I'm here today telling you that these things work. So, I teach my students to ask more questions than I do. I even dare them to challenge me. I even give them room to create, to write poetry, to write stories, to study cinema, to read. I taught Shakespeare to 10 years old. Yeah, Shakespeare, with that, difficult words and crazy stuff. So after all, working with people, with young people, I am convinced of one thing only. Every child arrives carrying a great potential. Remember when you were a kid, you were asking lots of questions, you were curious, but parents, school, no, let them. So, our tasks as educators is not to fill in empty vessels with lots of information. No, it's, sparking a potential and ignite that human potential. At least that's how I see things. As a conclusion, I believe that Morocco does not need an educational reform, but it needs an educational imagination, a disruption. I always ask my students and tell them, please take care of your mental health, because it's very important in whatever you do. And in whatever you do, don't forget to have fun. Please do have fun. And I want to leave you with this, and I'm serious, guys. If you want to know how I convinced Leonardo DiCaprio to give workshops, environment workshops in Morocco years ago, you can invite me for a tea. It's not free. Yeah. Thank you very much. That was my day.